So we have two discussion questions about this topic that you can answer. So, do you think that GDP is a useful tool in accurately depicting the environment of a country? Given what you've learned, do you think it should be relied upon as much as it is by economists? Do you think it really measures how much a country is worth? And do you think the current stimulus package being given out by the government in relation to COVID-19 will help or harm Australia's GDP? Why or why not? So there's some trigger questions to get you thinking about that. You can look at those on your own time. Basically, the top two questions relate to the first question, and the bottom two questions relate to the second question on the last page. You don't have to answer these, it's just to get you thinking. So the next topic I'm going to be talking about is inflation. So inflation basically measures how much the price of things have changed over time. So it doesn't measure different values such as the Gini index. It gives economists an understanding into how stable an economy is. So this is talking about the stability of an economy. For example, we can see that over the time the price of coffee has risen. However, inflation doesn't take into effect that the cost of living has also risen, as well as the cost of goods and services, as well as the cost of salaries has definitely increased. So there are three different types of inflation. First, we have cost push inflation. It occurs which occurs as a result of an increase in the cost of production, i.e., if the price of wages goes up, the price of the goods being made will also increase. Then we have demand pull inflation. This occurs when the overall demand for goods or services becomes faster than the production capacity of the economy. Finally, we have built-in inflation. That means that when prices rise, workers expect higher wages to maintain their cost of living. However, higher wages result in higher cost of production, which leads to higher prices, and the spiral begins. This built inflation is sometimes referred to as the wage price spiral and is not necessarily a good thing unless it's managed well. So when looking at inflation as a secondary measure of economic stability, it is important to realize again that this doesn't account for many other factors. Be that war or drought, it only takes into consideration the increase in prices. So finally here we can see that the opposite of inflation, or the antithesis of inflation, is hyperinflation. When there's too much money in the economy and the price of goods does not match it, we are left with hyperinflation. For example, we've got a photo here from the Weimar Republic in 1920 in Germany. To pay for World War One, the government simply printed more money, which, as we can see, resulted in hyperinflation. Basically, this meant that people were having to pay wheelbarrows full of cash for loaves of bread, which is just ridiculous. So, discussion questions. Do you think inflation is a good alternative to measuring GDP? What does it tell us about a country's economy? And with COVID-19 panic buying, can you think of which inflation type could occur as a result of people stocking out the shelves? And what are grocery stores doing currently to combat this? Thank you so much for listening to me. Now, Shresh is going to talk about unemployment and some other things, including alternatives. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that you've enjoyed it.
There are several macroeconomic indicators that MNCs use to evaluate the economic environment of a foreign country or market. The major factors influencing the economy is the labor market. The key indicators most investors focus on are the total employment and unemployment rates. US citizens who are already working represents the employed, while those who are actively looking for work but haven't got it are the unemployed. The unemployment rate does not include people without jobs such as students, retirees, or people who are discouraged and have simply given up to find a job. The unemployment rate is calculated by dividing the number of the unemployed by the number in the total workforce, where the total labor force is the sum of unemployed and the employed. The employment report is published monthly by the US Department of Labor and provides both employed and unemployment numbers. There is always some unemployment in the market as the allocation of resources change in the economy. Based on what people are buying, some companies go out of business while others producing goods are in demand will be expanding as soon as time passes. This allows a flow of labor from losing to winning industries, but it is not an instantaneous process. Others may leave their jobs by choice. That means there is always some amount of unemployment built in the economic structure, which is often termed as natural level of unemployment. The natural rate of unemployment is considered to make about 4 or 5% of the labor force. The productivity and the wealth of the citizens in a country is arguably the ultimate determiner of the economic success. Employment indicators such as labor force, payrolls, and unemployment data estimate how many citizens are employed, whether they are making more or less money than before. Multinational corporations carefully watch these employment indicators, especially in developed countries that generate most of their income from domestic consumer spending. The natural level of unemployment is the point where any drop below that figure creates condition that will drive up inflation. The relationship between the unemployment and the initially introduced by A.W. Philip. Philip curve demonstrates the inverse relation between the rate of inflation with the rate of unemployment. If levels of unemployment decrease, inflation increases, whereas there is a direct relation between the rate of employment and the rate of inflation. If the employment increases, inflation increases. A fall in employment is often followed by a fall in consumer spending, which can hurt GDP statistics and overall economic growth prospects. Different MNCs consider different aspects to evaluate the economic environment of a foreign market. Here, we'll evaluate some different type of MNCs and the criteria they use to analyze a market. First, we'll look on the big multinational food chain, which is the largest in the world, McDonald's, known for its hamburgers. Even after being one of the most popular chains in the world, they have to evaluate a market's potential before entering it. They would prefer entering a knowledgeable and educated market, irrespective of the fact that the country is employed or underemployed, as they serve fast food and people would like to buy it as long as they're aware of the product. When the people in the market are already aware of the product provided by the company, then the company doesn't need to spread awareness about the product. However, when the people are unaware of the product being sold, it is very difficult for the firm to do any kind of business since it might result in withdrawal of the company from that region. McDonald's had to close down its branches in countries like Iceland, Macedonia, Bangladesh, and Bermuda because people were either unable to adapt to the fast food culture or were unaware of the products offered. McDonald's would like to target metropolitan cities where people are very busy and working, as then it would increase the sales and be more profitable. States like New York, Las Vegas, California, and Texas, doubtless as these places are very populated, busy, and thus provide more revenues for the company. Second company we'll look on today is Nike. Nike is an American multinational corporation that is engaged in design, development, manufacturing, and worldwide marketing of sales of footwear, apparel, equipment, accessories, and services. It is the world's largest supplier of athletic shoes and apparel, and a major manufacturer of equipment with the estimated value of $34.7 billion. Nike, being a manufacturing and retail enterprise, would prefer setting up its manufacturing units where there is unemployment and cost of production is low, whereas they would open their retail outlets in huge metropolitan cities which are employed and aware of the product, as people in these areas will have the capacity to buy the product. The leading manufacturers of Nike shoes is China and Vietnam, each accounting for 36% of the total manufacturing worldwide. Since there is an abundance of labor, indicating that labor is really cheap in comparison to other countries, resulting in low cost of production. However, Nike establishes its retail outlets in fully employed states and countries where people are well aware of the brand and can potentially buy the product and services they offer, like California, Sydney, Manhattan, Vancouver, etc. Other clothing companies such as Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton also apply the same strategic policies in their organizational framework. There are several unforeseeable events that also influence the economic interests of an MNC. One of the recent events that took place globally affecting the MNCs is the recent coronavirus outbreak. This came off as a threat for businesses around the world due to the halt in operations and management affecting the sales of several goods. Nevertheless, this unfortunate distraught event created multiple opportunities for a few MNCs around the world as well. These MNCs had an advantage to expand in various countries since their products are vital and significant part of decreasing the spread of outbreak, which is the main goal overall. Due to the coronavirus outbreak, few countries such as China, Iran, Italy, USA faced a shortage of N95 masks and sanitizers, which are considered two of the principal products during this time. This resulted in being beneficial for companies such as Reckitt Benckiser and Bunzl, which produce products such as rubber gloves, masks, and cleaning kits. In addition to the same, the outbreak also caused numerous MNCs to decrease in their production since they had to stop manufacturing goods. The Nike's manufacturing units that are based in China, where the initial outbreak took place before spreading around the world. China also plays a very significant role in being an essential supplier, and with the present day uncertainties, businesses are at risk. Due to social isolation and quarantining, the production of goods naturally stops as well. And if there is no production of goods and quarantining takes place, then the employment rates also decreases. Hence, the unemployment rate will dramatically increase, and during this tough time, nobody is aware of how long it will take to recover. MNCs will also take a long time to recover as a whole, and bringing up the employment rates will significantly take longer as well.